Evening everyone. I've just decided to make a quick video because I've got quite a few people asking me now about what settings I'm using on my Equinox 800. So rather than trying to reply to text messages, Facebook messages and Facebook posts, I thought I'd just make a quick video. I've done a quick PDF file to go with it as well, so you can refer back to that for future reference on the settings that I use, because they're a little bit different to what you might see some people have used. First thing, we're going to make sure we're in not one of the single frequency modes. They've got the purposes, but I detect in multi-frequency mode, so make sure we're on multi-frequency. Also, the horseshoe button, some people call it, is either all metal or discrimination mode. I detect in all metal mode. Before we start detecting, press your settings button, bring the flashing indicator down to noise cancel and press the accept reject button and you will noise cancel the machine. That I will do every time I start detecting, every time I go into a different field, every time I get any electrical interference from either power lines or maybe somebody else coming a bit too close, not respecting social distancing, getting a bit too close to my personal space with their detectors. Do a noise cancel, it will usually solve that issue. Next setting, ground balance, I will always leave on 0. I've never once ground balanced any of the Minelab machines that I've had over the last 25 years in the UK. I don't think it's necessary. Maybe one or two people will disagree, but hey ho, I do what works for me. Volume adjust setting. Originally, without the line underneath the speaker, set it at 25, your maximum volume, because you want to hear those signals. Press and hold so that you've got a line under the speaker, and we can set separate volumes for the different targets that we're searching for. So I have my T1, which is going to be the non-desirable targets, set at number 1. So they're going to show up, but they're going to be really quiet. Target 2, 3, 4 and 5 are all going to be set again at maximum volume. Threshold level, don't matter where you have this is down to personal preference, and this is something I will change on a dig by dig basis. Normally 3 is adequate, but that will depend on which headphones I'm using, how windy it is, how much wind noise I'm getting in my headphones. Sometimes I might need to turn it up to 3 or 4, 4 or 5, even 6 at times. Sometimes you can turn it down a little bit lower, but I still like to be able to hear a threshold. So the first threshold setting is just your threshold volume. Press and hold the settings button and you get the threshold pitch, which is the actual tone of the threshold noise that you're hearing. I prefer to have a lower tone, but again it's down to personal preference. You can crank it up to 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want. You can have it as a high pitched squeak if you want, but that would really do my head in. So I like to have my threshold down at a low setting. Target tone setting, I run on 5 tones, although sometimes I can't think of the logic behind it, but again it works for me. You could choose 50 tones, you could choose 2 tones, but I prefer the 5 tones option. And then press and hold the settings button again. We can set the pitch for each individual target segment. So we've set 5 target tones. Target 1 for me, this is where you're going to find it a little bit different to anything else that you might read. I have actually set at 25, which is high pitched squeak. But because that high pitched squeak for target 1 is at volume 1, you can hear that it's there in the background, but it's not overpowering, so it's comfortable for me. Target 2, I set at number 3, which is a really low tone. Target 3 is set at 4, 4 at 5 and 5 at 6. So we don't have a big range of tones. So I know if I dig anything, or if I get a signal of anything that comes up with a low tone, providing it's not bouncing down into the minus numbers, I will dig it. The high pitched squeaky tones, are generally going to be ferrous, so they're the ones that I will ignore. So that's a little bit different to what you'll have probably seen before if you've been looking at other people's settings. The accept reject button is one that infuriates me, because you'll see a lot of people posting their settings and they'll say you've got to have accept reject set at -9, which is that's not right. The -9 that you see on the screen now is just telling me where the cursor is at this minute in time. So everything in this target display that's blank is the targets that I would reject, and everything that's black is the targets that I would accept. So if I want to move that cursor, and for example, if I wanted to reject targets 1, take your cursor to number 1, press the accept reject button to alternate between whether you accept or reject, and you see now that it's gone blank. I can do the same with target 2 if I want, so I can reject target 2. I can do the same with target 3. If I wanted to go and reject for some odd reason target 15, take your cursor to number 15, press the accept reject button, and you can see now that number 15 is blanked out, so any target coming up with the indicator of 15 would be rejected. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to accept that, and I'm going to just go back down just for shit and giggles, and I'm going to accept 3, 2 and 1. Doesn't matter, you don't have to leave that set at -9. You could leave it set at -7, you could leave it set at 26. We'll leave it at 26 because it ain't going to make any difference. We've done what we needed to do with that cursor by accepting or rejecting. Having said all that, when we're detecting in all metal mode, the horseshoe mode, all this section will be blanked out or blacked out anyway, so it will all be accepted sections of the target dial. So whatever you put into these settings, if you're detecting in all metal mode, this bit's irrelevant. So if I go back into detect, because I'm in horseshoe mode, all metal mode, all this is going to be accepted. So even if I blanked out this bit, that bit, that bit and that bit, press that horseshoe button, put it into all metal mode, we're going to accept everything anyway. So that part of the target section, irrelevant when we're using all metal mode. It only comes into play if we're wanting to discriminate out certain segments or certain sections of the target display. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll put my email address on the bottom of the PDF. Drop me a line, I'll try and explain it a bit clearer. Press and hold on accept and reject, and we get what's called the tone break setting, which means this is where we set the points where tone 1 changes to tone 2, which then changes to tone 3, which then changes to tone 4, which then changes to tone 5. And personally, I just leave this on factory settings because I've already set my target tones. It doesn't matter, as long as my tone 1 is set to 0, it's not going to cause me any problems, because all my tone 1 signals are going to give me that high pitch chirp at 25 pitch that I set in the previous setting. Recovery speed, I'll normally run at 4 to start off with, and then change depending on the type of ground that I'm detecting. If it's a site with a heck of a lot of trash on it, then I will increase the recovery speed, take it up to 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 in some cases. If it's a really quiet site that I'm on without a lot of junk, to get a little bit of extra depth, I can drop that down to 3, 2. I've never actually run it on 1, but you do have to use a really slow swing speed if you turn down the recovery speed settings. And then press and hold the settings button again, and it takes you into the IM bias modes. And to switch, if you've got the version 3 upgrade, you'll have the F2 option. If you haven't done the version 3 upgrade, you'll just have the FE option. But to switch between the two options, just use your accept reject button. That'll switch you between either. you can only use one of these modes at a time. Again, I've seen other people's settings where they're saying you have FE on 4 and you need F2 on 6. Don't matter, you choose one or the other. You either run in FE mode or you run in F2 mode. Either way, I'll run it at 0, and I don't dig iron. And that's pretty much it in relation to my settings. I run the identical settings that you've just seen me set up in Field 2 mode. I also run them in Beach 1, I run them in Beach 2. I've never used Gold mode because I've never been anywhere where I'd be fortunate enough to find a gold nugget anyway, and I don't use Parks. I don't know why, it's just a thing with me. I get the feeling that that's for our American friends. So my settings are programmed into Field 1, Field 2, Beach 1 and Beach 2. And then I will decide which of the modes I'm going to use once I get on a field, and I will choose the one that allows me to set the highest sensitivity. My sensitivity at the minute is set down at 1 because I'm indoors and I've got electrical equipment that's going to play havoc, but I will try. I maybe start on Beach 1, I maybe start on Field 1 and try and run it with the sensitivity as high as I can get it. And if I can get a stable sensitivity with a 15-inch coil running, if I can run it at 22, 23, 24 sensitivity, I'll stick in that mode. If I'm getting a lot of false signals and the machine becomes very unstable, I'll try one of the other modes. So I've pretty much got 4 modes to choose from without having to make too many adjustments. Key thing for me there, learn the machine. Don't just copy somebody else's settings. Although I'm sharing my settings, if you copy somebody else's settings and you get out in a field and your machine starts playing havoc and you don't know what to do to make those adjustments to put it right, you're going to be snookered and it'll ruin your day. The factory settings are spot on for if you're new to the Equinox, until you get to learn what each one of the settings does and what impact it has on your machine. There's not a lot you can do with these machines to stop them from finding things, to be fair, other than the on and off button, the sensitivity and messing about with the discrimination. If you blank out large sections of the screen to try to eliminate ring pulls, for example, then you're going to miss a lot of good stuff as well. So I hope that's been quite useful to some of you at least. If you get the PDF file from my Google Drive, have a read through it for future reference. If you get any questions, you're by all means welcome to drop me an email. I do work for a living, so I might not always be able to reply straight away, but I'll do my best to reply as soon as I can. And I think I'll leave it at that. I hope these settings work for you as well as they've been working for me. Good luck and take care. Draw for now.